Hey everyone, welcome once again to the B-Movie Bunker. Today we're looking at Found, brought to us by Scott Shermer, based on the book by Todd Rigney. This one, the first line of the movie, and I'm probably not getting it exactly right, but it kind of sums up kind of the ride you're in for, and it is, my brother keeps severed heads in a bowling bag in his closet. You have a brilliant story of a young boy who is played incredibly well by Gavin Brown. I mean, this kid, he really carries this movie, I think, on his shoulders. I think he does a phenomenal job. A lot of times, you know, child actors, you tend to give a little more slack, but every now and then you get one that can really carry a role, and Gavin Brown does that brilliantly, playing the kind of bullied, out-of-place kid in this movie. He, you know, has discovered that his brother is a serial killer, and the story then progresses of him coming to terms with that, as well as his own coming of age, and, you know, being bullied at school, and even by his other friends because of the type of person he is and what he likes. This one, I like this movie a lot. It's a good kind of drama / horror, you know, where you've got good story going on. It's not purely just like some slasher flick. There's a lot of story about this young kid, you know, trying to cope. And, like I said, Gavin Brown does brilliantly in his role. It's also incredibly well filmed. I mean, there's some gore in it that, in the way it's used, works perfectly. It is quite excessive, but the point it's trying to make, that's, you know, it's necessary for what they're trying to do. I would actually like it if the film was a little shorter. I think if this film was just a little tighter, it would go from being a really, really good film to becoming just a brilliant piece of cinema. There's a movie within a movie where they're showing a short, you know, the characters are actually watching a movie. That movie itself could have been trimmed up as well, just because it makes its point, and I think they kind of belabor that. They take it on a little bit longer than they should have. So I think with a little bit of editing here and there, this movie is even better. I am looking forward to what else Shermer works on, because this one here, this is almost a home run, I think. The story is well written, I think. Some of the dialogue delivered by some of the adult characters, I think, is a little stilted, but for the most part, I think there's good chemistry going on, primarily between the younger brother and his older brother, the killer. There's a good dynamic going on between them, you know, that kind of shows that how brothers, you know, can grow apart, but there's still that bond between them. Just so much I liked about this movie, and it from the first line, which is great, to, I'm not going to spoil the end. All I'm going to say is that the final line of the movie is probably one of the best ending lines ever in a movie. It really got me, and I'm almost breaking out laughing now just remembering it, as well as cringing. The whole story, though, the one thing that some people don't like, the narration style of storytelling, where the main character, in this case, the young boy, is narrating the story as well as you see what's going on. There's that overall narration. Generally, I'm not a huge fan of that. I think it works occasionally. I think it works all right in this film, where it doesn't detract from the overall story. A lot of times, the narration can detract from the story because they end up telling you more of the story than showing it to me. If I want to be told the story, I'll read a book. I watch a movie because I want to be shown it. I want to be shown the story. I don't want you to tell it to me, or I want you to tell it to me not through words, but through action and pictures. So they have the narration. I think it works well in this without detracting from the overall story. A scale of 1 to 10, boy, this is, it's kind of like Wonder Years meets, I don't know, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's kind of this mix of it's got a little bit of the gore horror, but it's also this, you know, this coming of age, and it's the story of a boy as he's growing and you know, kind of changing and starting to cope with his life. And just as I said, for me, this is kind of one of those nostalgia ones where this harkens back to the day when VHS was king. And I remember running into the video store where there's just racks and racks and racks of movies. And so many of these movies that were made direct to video, you had choices that you never had before. And you could just pull them off the shelf and you watch so many of them. I wasn't necessarily the giant horror fan. I watched plenty of horror. But for me, you know, it was the sci-fi and the fantasy. But still, it was that thing of, you know, that you get in that video store and you're like, oh my god, what am I going to watch? There's like 500 titles here, and you can only get 3, you know, and it's picking and choosing the ones that you think are going to be the best. And sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't. So I would say if you can find this one, check this one out. It is definitely a blast. It's independent horror the way it's meant to be, and proven how it can be. So check this one out. That's all I got for this time. Till next time, stay safe out there in the wasteland.